Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Qayyim bin Khairi. I am an architecture student in University Science Islam Malaysia. I am from Aslan Studio. I am the first year student and currently I am in semester 2. My matrix number is 1201076. Today, I would like to present my final project in last semester. The final project was called Individual Mobile Studio Pod. Before we go through to my explanation about my final project last semester, let me explain a little bit about the project brief in the last final project. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the final project was called Individual Mobile Design Studio Pod. So, the main aim of project is to heighten the awareness of students about the human body, interaction of space and body, and explore the role of reasoning and logic in shaping the form. This will be done through the designing a confined space which we call Individual Design Studio Pod. And the students have to design the studio pod for a 24-hour use. And the space that be given to the student is 12 meters squared, which is 1.5 meter of width, 2.1 meters of length, and 1.8 meters of height. So, this limited space will challenge us as a student to really examine and consider anthropometry and ergonomics factors such as body dimensions, body movements, human behaviors, and user needs. So we will then progress on to understand how the human body relates to space and further developing an understanding of scale and proportion in the relationships between body and space. Through designing a limited space, we will explore more about the role of function and objective parameters in the design process. Okay, done for the project brief of the project. Okay, so now let's go to the first thing first that I want to explain. In the early process of my final design, my design. Okay, first thing first, let's we go through to the issue. Okay, in my study, I found out that architecture students' daily routine is quite monotonous, which is boring. They need an eye-catching surrounding, or actually they need an eye-catching design and approaching design to create images that can be deceptive or misleading to our brain. So, as we know, as most students, their daily routine is just to explore their study and to read books, to write, to sketch, just same things from day to day. So they feel that they cannot cope with the boring surrounding. And apart from that, I think they need to have an eye-catching surrounding. Means not really dizzy design, but just a bit interesting design, a unique, to so that they can work while their brain is working. Okay, let me explain further. As the project outcomes, to explore objective parameters of design process, to make us understand of human factors to the design of space like size, shape, and human behavior, and for us to explore the relation of form and function. I like to make those things as my most focused thing in my design, but at the same time the design have to be quite confusing, so that students are not feel boring while they are study in my design of studio pod. Okay, so on top of that issue, I strictly want to search for the conclusion in the Quran verse. So I found a verse that is giving me the idea to start my design. So the verse is from Surah Al-Imran, verse 185. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut wa innama tuwaffawna ujurakum yawmal qiyamah. Faman zuhziha 'anil nari wa udkhilal jannata faqad faz wa mal hayatud dunya illa mata'ul ghurur. Sadaqallahul azim. So the translation is, every soul will taste of death, and you will only be given your compensation on the day of resurrection. So he who is drawn has attained his desire, and what is the life of the world except the enjoyment of delusion? So the keywords here from the translation that we can know is, I'm sorry, not the keyword but the key phrase. What is the life of the world except the enjoyment of delusion? So based on this Nakli study, I understand that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala wants us about the important to prioritize the akhirah instead of the world that we are living now, by mentioning that the world we are living now, that's the dunya, is only the illusion, is only a temporary, it's not permanent. So by mentioning this statement, Allah wants us to focus more to be successful in the akhirat, by mentioning that the world is an illusion only, it's not the real world. So that delusion word indicates that we need to always focus on the real thing, which is akhirat. Okay, so based on the issue and on the explanation of my Nakli study, I come out that I want to use concept of illusion in my design to solve the issue. So illusion, an instance of a wrong or misinterpreted perception of a sensory experience, or we can specifically call it as optical illusion. Means the special feature in the field of architecture is the use of optical illusions in order to make buildings appear different from what they actually are. That's what I want to have in my design. And let's say if a person stands directly at the foot of the building, they will perceive it differently than if they took it from far away. So, in other words, illusion design can in illusion design in any buildings or sculptures, or let's say in my case in studio pod, the, they can make people thinking, and not too far of thinking, maybe just a little bit of thinking. They will have such as a confusion when every time they're in my studio pod. Okay, so now from the concept, let's go to my precedent study. I choose two buildings. These two buildings complete my what I want, what things I want in a building to make it as a illusion, optical illusion for the people surrounding. So, those two buildings are Estudios de Facadas and Baltic building. So, when you see the Estudios de Facadas and Baltic building, these both buildings are played with the colors, with the arrangement of their sections. Means actually it is an illusion only. Do you get what I mean? So, like Estudios de Facadas, they play with colors, and like Baltic building, they play with the arrangement of each compartment of the building. Okay, so now let's have a look on the design process of my design of studio pod. So, I started designing by choose a simple and a static drawing in my studio. We can see the first picture at the top. It is a cube and it has several lines on its surface, in front surface. So, and then by this building, this cube building, this cube thing, I derive it by make it open at the top. It has two folding, which is each folding has a different angle, different corner, different position of corner. For example, when you look at the picture, the right folded is facing towards the left side, and the left folding is facing towards the right side. It's actually like an X direction. And why I did like that? Because I want to start to make my studio pod have a movement look. Like when people come, the thing is this building, is this studio pod is moving, it has a movement effects, but it's actually static. So, move to the third picture. The third picture illustrates the building that have a multiple column, multiple space, multiple vertical space to be perfect, and the multiple open surface space has different tall, different length of tall, and it is it's like randomly arranged. These steps to show the random arrangement in my studio pod. I want the arrangement to be like the first priority in my design. The arrangement on each part of the wall. I mean like that. Like and let's go further to the last picture, which is at the bottom, the blue one. It is actually a multiple outer walls. When, as you can see, there is like maybe 7 walls that is play with the angles of each corner of the structure. Yeah, like the most front of the structure, it is angled mostly on the left, but going backward to the back structure, the angle is slowly going towards to the right. That is the movement that I want to relate from the second picture. And yeah, let's go to the final design that I produce. Okay, so now let's have a look on my final design. We can see the axonometric view. The drawing is actually my final design. So based on the drawing, I think we can imagine that the arrangement of each structure in my design, the design has many structures, vertical structures that I cut it. Each structure have different measurement of each edges. For example, the front structure, the slope is quite short. The slope part, the length of the slope part is quite short, but when it comes to the going backwards of the structure, the length of the slope is become more longer. The next page of my board includes 5 structure drawings, which are floor plan, front elevation, rear elevation, left elevation, and right elevation. So we are going one by one through the structure drawing, and when you see each of the drawings is drawn in scale of 1 to 10 as what is instructed for us in the project brief. So first of all, floor plan. The floor plan is pictures about the looks when we cut and we look from upper side of the studio pod. Like we cut in about 1 meter from the ground. So this is what it looks like. It has a table, a chair, and basically most part in this floor plan is the column of the multiple structures in design. Like you can see in the left and the right side of the floor plan, it has multiple columns, and when you see it clearly in the left side of the floor plan, actually the column from the front side, from the front structure going to the backwards, the 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 lines of the column going to the backward is become more shorter, and the dotted lines become more longer. And you can see that there is an opening in front side of the studio pod and a little bit opening at the right side of the studio pods. Okay, going to the front elevation, simply you can see that there is an opening like what I mentioned earlier. The rear elevation, you can see how the opening for people to come in and come out from the studio pods. Before I explain on the next elevation, this studio pods is used for the single occupancy only, means there must be one person only in the studio pod. So going to the left elevation, we can see a vertical straight of the structure, and there is some of the space between the structure. It has the walls that I arranged it to have a in decline arrangements, so it creates a pattern. And from the right elevation, you can see the openings of the studio pod. Okay, now let's go through the section. There is two sections, which is section X to X and section Y to Y, and both of this section is drawn just like the previous drawing, which is in 1 to 10 scale. So section X to X, you can start to see how I managed to arrange each structure of the studio pod with different measurement of each structure. Means like each structure, it is not the same shape of the structure. So in the section Y to Y, we can see the human activities there. So the opening, what I want to highlight here in the section Y to Y is you can see the opening for people to come in and to come out, and how the space when people in the pod. So next drawing is 1 point perspective. As you can see here, it is clearly pictures illustrates how the interior of my design looks like. Okay, so now let's go further to the model. First of all, we students have to build a messing model about our concept, about what the concept and the idea we want to put in our design. So this is my messing model. You can see the two sculptures, which is the first sculptures, and on the left side it is sculptures that have the the folding parts on top of it, which each folding part is facing differently towards each other. And the second sculptures on the right side is the sculptures that is actually a vertical rectangular sculptures that has different heights. So let's go through the next model, which is mock-up model. Under mock-up model, as we an architecture student, we know that mock-up model is being built for us to help us see the form and the space about our final model. Okay, so now let's go to the final part, which is final model. This is how my final model looks like. It is it's not, I think it's not a simple and plain model. I want to make it looks like a quite a rigid structure, and it's not flowing. It's not a flowing or flooding architecture, but it looks like it is flowing. It has its movements. This is the final words from me. Thank you for your attention and for your cooperation. Thanks for watching my explanation videos. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share for the development of our channel.